Hello, Primary 4. Okay, we are now in lesson 2, and in the last part of the lesson, we talked about the different types of fuels like the biofuel and fossil fuel. And I said that we are going to discuss how the fossil fuels or the different types of fossil fuels are formed. So firstly, let's start with the formation of coal. Coal, and we said that the coal, it's a type of fossil fuel that is formed from the remains of dead plants. So if I say that about 300 million years ago, large areas of Earth were covered with the swamps, and there was a large amount of plants or a lot of plants growing nearby to this swamp, like this, a large amount or a large area covered with the plants or green plants. Okay, when those plants die, the remains were decomposed or go down. Here, if the plant dies, the plant, it goes down inside the soil. After that, the remains of the plant starts to be decomposed and covered by hundreds meters of mud and rocks or different layers of the soil. Okay, after the effect or due to the effect of extreme or very high heat and pressure on this remains of the plants due to the layers of the soil, this remains turned into coal. So that's the plants, they died, go down inside the soil deeply. Okay, there's a large amount of rocks and soil and the mud above this remains of the plant. So after time, by the heat and the pressure, the remains of the plant changes into coal. So that's the plant getting down inside the soil. By the heat and the pressure on the remains of the plant, they change into coal. So that's the way of how the coal is formed. Number 2, the formation of oil. We say the oil and the natural gas, they are formed from the remains of dead marine animals. So now we are going to move to the ocean or the sea. We said the oil is extracted from the underground as a result of decomposition of marine organisms. When the marine organisms here die, they go down on the floor of the sea or the floor of the ocean. After millions of years, layers of sediments and rocks, they cover the remain of these marine animals or marine organisms, and they make a pressure and a heat, or after the heat and the pressure, that's the remains of plants and animals. And there is a sand or different layers above these remains. After the millions of years of pressure and heat, these remains change into oil and natural gas, okay, that we can get out from under the ground. Okay, so the main 2 points in formation of oil and the formation of coal is the very extreme or the very high pressure and heat. The coal comes from the remains of the plants, the oil comes from the remains of marine organisms. Very good. And now let's talk how can we conserve the different types of fuel. If I'm talking about oil, we know that the oil is consumed as a rate greater and very faster than it produced, because it takes so long time, like millions of years, to be produced. So we should rationalize or decrease consuming the oil to avoid running out of it, by reducing or decreasing the use of private vehicles. So instead of using your private car, you can go and use the general bus, okay, or the public transportation, and using the public means of transportation to decrease the using of the oil. Number 2, how can we conserve the water or the renewable resources of energy? Okay, we should use the water very carefully by avoid wasting or polluting the water, because we may not be able to replace it as quickly as we need. Yeah, it can be replaced, I know that, but not the very quickly, in a very quickly way. And like growing the plants that don't need a large amount of water. Okay, let's move to the questions. Number 1, all the following are forms of fuel except wood, natural gas, gasoline, and glass. If I said except, so I'm going to find a different one that cannot produce heat or thermal energy after burning. Excellent, it's a glass. Number 2, what is considered as the main resource of energy on the sun? Main energy, so it's the sun. Sorry, on the earth, so it's the sun. Ancient people use what as a form of fuel before discovering the gasoline? I say the oldest type of fuel that we discovered on the earth. Excellent, the wood. Number 4, coal is formed under the earth's surface from the remains of dead animals, dead plants, dead humans, or dead insects. Excellent, we said the coal comes from dead plants. What about the oil? Very good, comes from the dead marine animals. That's all for this lesson, and thank you for listening.